July 24th, 1943. Pacific Ocean, east of Truk. USS Tinosa has the perfect shot. Lieutenant Commander Lawrence Daspit is watching through his periscope. A 19,000-ton Japanese tanker, Tonan Maru No. 3, sitting dead in the water. No escorts, no zigzagging, just sitting there like a target at practice range. Daspit fires 4 torpedoes. Perfect spread. He watches them run hot, straight, and normal toward the target. Impact. He hears them hit. 4 metallic clang sounds echo through the ocean. 0 explosions. The tanker doesn't even move. Daspit can see the impact marks on the hull. His torpedoes hit perfectly. They just didn't explode. He chases the tanker all night, gets another perfect setup at dawn, fires 2 more torpedoes. Both hit at glancing angles. Both explode. The tanker starts limping away. Daspit spends the entire day chasing. Finally gets ahead again. Sets up the perfect 90-degree shot. Textbook perfect. Fires 9 more torpedoes. All 9 hit. All 9 make that same metallic clang. 0 explosions. The tanker limps away. Daspit returns to Pearl Harbor with 1 torpedo left. He saved it for analysis. Because this wasn't bad luck. This wasn't operator error. This was the 3rd major defect in the most expensive torpedo ever built by the United States Navy. December 1941 to August 1943. 21 months of war. American submarines fire 1,442 torpedoes at Japanese ships. 80% fail. Duds, prematures, or complete misses. Japanese convoys sail freely. American submariners risk their lives for nothing. The Bureau of Ordnance blames the submarine commanders. Then someone at Pearl Harbor has an idea. Test the torpedoes properly. Drop dummy warheads from a 90-foot crane. See what happens on impact. 7 out of 10 fail to explode. The diagnosis: firing pin too heavy. Crushes on impact instead of detonating. The solution comes from the most ironic source imaginable. Japanese aircraft shot down at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Their lightweight aluminum propellers melted down and machined into new firing pins. The fix worked. September 1943. Success rate jumps from 20% to 95%. U.S. submarines sink 1,314 Japanese ships in the next 2 years. The Japanese merchant fleet is annihilated. All because someone thought, what if we use the enemy's own planes to fix our weapons? This is the story of how Pearl Harbor's wreckage saved the Pacific submarine campaign. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor. The Japanese surprise attack cripples the Pacific Fleet. 8 battleships destroyed or damaged. But the submarines survive. They're berthed away from Battleship Row, and suddenly, they're America's only offensive weapon in the Pacific. The U.S. submarine force has 51 boats in the Pacific. They're armed with brand new Mark 14 torpedoes, the finest torpedo in the world, according to the Bureau of Ordnance. Cost: $10,000 each. That's equivalent to $200,000 today. There's just one problem. The Mark 14 has never been properly tested before the war. December 10, 1941. 3 days after Pearl Harbor. USS Sargo, Commander Tyrell Jacobs, is on patrol off the Philippines. Perfect attack position. 2 Japanese merchantmen crossing his path. Jacobs fires 8 torpedoes. All miss. He repositions. Fires 2 more at another target. Both hit. 0 explosions. Just duds. Jacobs returns to base and reports, the torpedoes are defective. The Bureau of Ordnance response, impossible. The Mark 14 is perfect. The problem is the skipper. But it keeps happening. January 1942. USS Seawolf. Lieutenant Commander Frederick "Fearless Freddy" Warder. 6 war patrols. Constant torpedo failures. He fires at the Japanese cruiser Naka off Christmas Island. Here's the torpedoes hit. 0 explosions. Warder gets so frustrated he switches back to old World War I era Mark 10 torpedoes. Immediate improvement. The old torpedoes work. The new ones don't. By mid-1942, the pattern is undeniable. Submarine after submarine reporting the same problems. Torpedoes running too deep, exploding prematurely, hitting targets without detonating. What nobody realizes yet, the Mark 14 has 3 separate independent defects, and they're masking each other. Problem 1. Depth control. The torpedoes run 11 feet deeper than the depth setting. They're passing under targets. Problem 2. Magnetic exploder. It's supposed to detonate when passing under a ship's magnetic field, but it's hypersensitive, explodes prematurely or not at all. Problem 3. Contact exploder. When the torpedo hits directly, the firing pin crushes instead of striking the primer cap. No explosion. 3 different problems. Any one of them can cause a failure, and the Bureau of Ordnance refuses to admit any of them exist. The institutional failure is staggering. The Bureau of Ordnance, BUORD, designed the Mark 14 in the 1930s. They conducted exactly 2 live-fire tests before the war. One of them failed. They blamed the submarine crew. Budget cuts during the Depression meant no money for proper testing. The torpedoes were too expensive to blow up in peacetime. And secrecy obsession meant no maintenance manuals distributed to submarine crews. Nobody outside BUORD understood how the weapon actually worked. Even Admiral Ernest King, Chief of Naval Operations, the most powerful man in the U.S. Navy, can't force BUORD to fix the problems. The Bureau is an independent fiefdom. They answer to no one, and submarine crews are dying because of it. The human cost is brutal. Submarines are making perfect attack runs, getting into position against armed Japanese warships and convoys, risking depth charges, gunfire, aerial attack, and their torpedoes don't work. Some commanders start secretly disabling the magnetic exploders against direct orders. They repaint the locking screws with blue paint so inspectors can't tell they've been tampered with. Junior officers are saying openly, "We're dying for nothing." By mid-1943, the submarine force is at the breaking point. Morale is collapsing. Confidence in their weapons is gone. And Japanese shipping is sailing freely across the Pacific, resupplying their forces, while American torpedoes fail over and over again. Something has to change. January 1943. Rear Admiral Charles Lockwood is appointed Commander Submarine Force Pacific Fleet, based at Pearl Harbor. Lockwood is different from most admirals. He's a former submariner himself. He's been there, diving, attacking, hearing torpedoes fail. He believes his men, not the Bureau, and he's willing to fight his own Navy to prove it. The first battle is over depth control. June 1942. While Lockwood was still commanding submarines in Australia, he conducted an unauthorized test. Fired torpedoes through fishing nets at Frenchman Bay. The holes in the nets proved it. Torpedoes were running 11 to 15 feet deeper than set. Lockwood reported it to BUORD. They ignored him. He reported again, and again. Finally, in August 1942, 8 months into the war, BUORD admitted the depth problem existed. The fix was simple. Adjust the depth setting mechanism. Done. But torpedoes were still failing. Spring 1943. Even with depth fixed, submarines are getting duds and premature explosions. April 1943. USS Tinosa fires 10 torpedoes at Japanese aircraft carriers. All 10 explode prematurely, triggered by the carrier's magnetic fields before the torpedoes get close enough to do damage. 0 hits. Lockwood suspects the magnetic exploder. BUORD insists it's perfect. Lockwood escalates to Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet. June 24, 1943. Nimitz makes a command decision. Deactivate the magnetic exploder fleet-wide. Use contact exploders only. The Bureau of Ordnance is furious, but Nimitz outranks them. Problem 2. Solved. But torpedoes are still failing. July 1943. With magnetic exploders disabled, submarines are relying entirely on contact hits, and they're still getting an unacceptable number of duds. Perfect hits. Torpedoes striking hulls directly. Audible impact. Zero explosion. Then comes USS Tinosa. July 24th, 1943. Lieutenant Commander Lawrence Daspit has the patrol report that will break the case wide open. He finds the Japanese tanker Tonin Maru No. 3. 19,000 tons. Dead in the water. No escorts. Perfect target. Daspit is a by-the-book officer. Meticulous. Careful. He sets up the perfect 90-degree shot, exactly as taught at submarine school. Fires 4 torpedoes. All hit. Zero explosions. He chases all night. Fires 2 more at a glancing angle, about 45 degrees. Both explode. The tanker is damaged but still moving. Daspit spends the entire next day getting into position again. Finally sets up another perfect 90-degree shot. Fires 9 torpedoes. All 9 hit. He can hear them. Metallic clang sounds echoing through the ocean. Zero explosions. Daspit has 1 torpedo left. He doesn't fire it. He saves it for analysis. He returns to Pearl Harbor with the most frustrating patrol report ever written. 15 perfect hits, 15 duds. Admiral Lockwood reads it and realizes, this is proof. Undeniable, documented, perfectly executed proof that something is catastrophically wrong with the contact exploder. August 1943. Lockwood orders comprehensive testing. Against Bureau protocols. This is a career-risking move. But his submariners are dying, and he's done asking permission. August 1943. Pearl Harbor submarine base. The testing begins. First, they fire live warheads at underwater cliffs off Kahulave Island. Retrieve the ones that don't explode. Examine the firing mechanisms. Results inconclusive. They need a more controlled test. Someone suggests, build a drop test. Lieutenant Commander E.A. Pete Johnson supervises the construction. They build a 90-foot crane at the submarine base. Take dummy warheads, same weight as live ones, filled with sand instead of explosives. Drop them onto a steel plate at different angles. The goal: simulate the impact forces of a torpedo hitting a ship's hull at 46 knots. They drop 10 warheads at a perfect 90-degree angle. 7 fail to detonate. They disassemble the duds, and finally, after 21 months of war, they see the problem. The firing pin hasn't traveled its full distance. It's stuck in the guide rails. Jammed. The diagnosis is clear. Inertial forces on impact are too high. The firing pin is too heavy. Here's what's happening. The Mark VI exploder was originally designed for the Mark X torpedo, a World War I weapon that traveled at 33 knots. The Mark XIV travels at 46 knots. That's 40% faster. But speed isn't linear. Impact force increases with the square of velocity. The Mark XIV's impact force is nearly double that of the Mark X. The exploder has a heavy steel firing pin that travels down guide rails when the torpedo hits. It's supposed to strike a primer cap at the end, detonating the warhead. But at 46 knots, hitting at a 90-degree angle, the deceleration is 500 times the force of gravity. The frictional force on that heavy steel firing pin is 190 pounds. The pin crushes, jams in the guide rails, can't reach the primer cap. No explosion, just a metallic clang. The cruel irony. The better the shot, the worse the performance. A perfect 90-degree hit, textbook perfect, exactly what submarine doctrine teaches, creates maximum deceleration. Maximum friction. 100% dud rate. A glancing 45-degree hit, technically a poor shot, creates less deceleration. The firing pin has a chance to work. 50% success rate. American submarine commanders have been trained to make perfect shots, and perfect shots guarantee failure. They've been doing exactly what the training manuals told them to do, and it's been killing them. Now they know the problem, but they need a solution. Fast. The obvious fix? Redesign the firing pin. Make it lighter. Reduce the friction. But if they wait for Bureau to manufacture new parts, it'll take months. Design review, testing, production, distribution. The war can't wait that long. They need to improvise. Admiral Lockwood's staff gathers at Pearl Harbor. Torpedo shop machinists, engineers from submarine tenders. Everyone brainstorming. The problem is clear. Need a lighter firing pin. Aluminum would work. High strength, low weight. But where do you get high-strength aluminum quickly? Then someone remembers. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor attack. Japanese aircraft shot down. Wreckage still scattered around Hickam Field and Ford Island. Aircraft propellers are made of high-strength aluminum alloy. They have to be lightweight and incredibly strong. Same properties needed for a firing pin. The irony is staggering. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Their own aircraft, shot down during that attack, are still lying in wreckage yards. And that wreckage is about to fix American torpedoes. Submarine base sends teams to Hickam Army Airfield. They scour the wreckage yards. Recover propeller blades from shot-down Zeros, Kate torpedo bombers, Val dive bombers. One Army Air Forces officer watches them hauling away the twisted aluminum and says, "A better use for a busted Jap prop could not be found." Back at the submarine base, the machine shop goes into overdrive. They melt down the Japanese propeller blades. Machine new lightweight firing pins from the aluminum. Also make lighter springs, aluminum guide tracks, everything to reduce weight and friction. Each piece is precision machined. The tolerances are tight. The work is painstaking. But it works. They install the new lightweight firing pins in dummy warheads. Repeat the drop test from 90 feet. Perfect detonation. Every time. 90-degree hits. 45-degree hits. Doesn't matter. The lightweight pins work. Problem solved. August through September 1943. Every machine shop at Pearl Harbor is mobilized. Submarine tenders USS Holland and USS Proteus join the effort. They're producing modified exploders around the clock. Admiral Lockwood's order is absolute. Every single modified exploder must be individually tested before installation. 100% inspection. Zero tolerance for defects. By late September 1943, they have enough modified torpedoes to equip the first submarines. Time for the real test. Combat. September 30th, 1943. USS Barb departs Pearl Harbor. Captain Eugene Lucky Flucky is at the helm. 20 torpedoes aboard. Every single one equipped with firing pins made from Japanese aircraft aluminum. October 1943. Barb is hunting off Formosa, modern-day Taiwan. Flucky spots a Japanese convoy. 4 cargo ships with escorts. Perfect setup. He maneuvers into attack position. The crew is tense. They've all heard about the torpedo failures. They know what's riding on this patrol. Flucky fires a spread of torpedoes. Impact. Explosion. A cargo ship erupts in flames. Second hit. Another explosion. A second ship starts sinking. The torpedoes are working. Every single one that hits detonates. The crew is cheering. After 21 months of frustration, failure, and fury, the torpedoes finally work. Barb returns to Pearl Harbor with a success report that changes everything. Other submarines receive the modified torpedoes. USS Harder, USS Silversides, USS Tang, USS Wahoo. The results are immediate and dramatic. Success rate jumps from 20% to 95%. The numbers tell the story. Before the fix, December 1941 to August 1943, American submarines fired 1,442 torpedoes, sank 109 Japanese ships. Total tonnage, 41,871 tons. 20% success rate. After the fix, September 1943 to August 1945. American submarines fired 14,748 torpedoes, sank 1,314 Japanese ships. Total tonnage, 5.3 million tons. 95% success rate. That's a 12-fold increase in effectiveness. The impact on the Pacific War is devastating for Japan. Japanese merchant fleet at start of war, 6 million tons. By August 1945, 1 million tons remaining. U.S. submarines sank 2,346 merchant ships, 56% of Japan's entire merchant marine. 60% of Japanese naval combat losses came from submarines. Oil tankers from the Dutch East Indies can't reach Japan. Troop transports are sunk. Supply convoys annihilated. Japanese industry starves for raw materials. War production collapses. And it's all because the torpedoes finally work. October 1944. Battle off Samar, part of the larger Battle of Leyte Gulf. USS Darter and USS Dace intercept Admiral Kurita's center force. Powerful Japanese battleships and cruisers heading to attack American landing forces. Darter fires 6 torpedoes at the heavy cruiser Atago, Admiral Kurita's flagship. 4 hit. All 4 explode. Atago sinks in 18 minutes. Kurita barely survives. Dace fires torpedoes at heavy cruiser Maya. Multiple hits. Maya explodes and sinks. Darter damages cruiser Takao so badly it has to withdraw. 3 Japanese heavy cruisers eliminated. The center force is thrown into chaos. Kurita delays his attack. That delay helps save the American escort carriers at Samar. Working torpedoes changed the outcome of the largest naval battle in history. Individual submarine achievements post-fix are staggering. USS Tang, Commander Richard O'Kane, sinks 33 Japanese ships. Most successful U.S. submarine of the war. USS Flasher, sinks 100,231 tons of shipping. USS Archerfish, sinks the carrier Shinano, 71,000 tons, largest ship ever sunk by a submarine. All using the fixed Mark 14 torpedoes. All using firing pins made from Japanese aircraft aluminum. The vindication is complete. Admiral Lockwood was right. Submarine commanders were right. The Bureau of Ordnance was wrong. BUORD finally admits full responsibility for the torpedo crisis. But the admission comes too late. 21 months wasted. How many ships could have been sunk? How many Japanese soldiers could have been prevented from reaching their destinations? How many American lives lost because supplies got through? If the Mark 14 had worked from December 1941, Battle of Midway, June 1942. USS Nautilus hit the carrier Kaga with a torpedo. Dud. Kaga survived and continued fighting. Guadalcanal campaign. Countless Japanese supply runs could have been stopped. Coral Sea. Japanese carriers were vulnerable targets. Post-war analysis suggests, if torpedoes had worked from the beginning, the Pacific War might have ended 6 to 12 months earlier. Thousands of lives, American and Japanese, could have been saved. All because of institutional arrogance. Refusal to test. Refusal to listen. Refusal to admit mistakes. But the solution, when it finally came, was elegant in its simplicity and profound in its irony. The enemy's own planes fixed the weapons that destroyed them. The statistical impact of the torpedo fix is undeniable. Before September 1943, 1.5 ships sunk per submarine patrol. After September 1943, 7 ships sunk per submarine patrol. That's a 467% increase in effectiveness. U.S. submarines become the most lethal force in the Pacific theater. More effective than strategic bombing. More effective than surface naval engagements. Japan's merchant marine is annihilated. Started the war with 6 million tons of shipping capacity. By August 1945, 1 million tons remaining. 83% destroyed. Of 2,346 Japanese merchant ships sunk during the war, submarines accounted for 1,314, 56% of the total. The Japanese economy and war machine are strangled. No oil from Borneo, no rubber from Malaya, no food from Southeast Asia. The home islands starve. But the cost of the 21-month delay is staggering. 52 U.S. submarines lost during World War II. 3,505 submariners killed. Highest casualty rate of any branch of service, 22%. How many of those losses were due to faulty torpedoes? How many submarines had to make multiple attacks because their first torpedoes failed, exposing themselves to counterattack? Conservative estimates: 10 to 15 submarines lost due to extended engagements caused by torpedo failures. That's 300 submariners who died because the Bureau of Ordnance refused to test their weapons properly. Post-war, the Joint Army-Navy Assessment Committee investigated. Their conclusion: torpedo failures significantly extended the Pacific War. If the Mark 14 had worked from the beginning, Japan's merchant fleet would have been destroyed by mid-1943. Oil shortages would have crippled Japanese military operations by late 1943. The war might have been over by mid-1944. The institutional changes came too late for World War II, but they shaped future doctrine. Post-war, Bureau of Ordnance reformed. Testing requirements strengthened. Operational feedback prioritized. Live fire testing mandatory. The too expensive to test mentality died with the Mark 14 scandal. Modern torpedo development involves extensive live fire testing. Operators are involved in the design process from the beginning. No weapon is deployed without field validation. The lesson was learned at a terrible cost. But the irony of the solution is what makes this story unforgettable. December 7, 1941. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, nearly destroys the Pacific Fleet, sinks battleships, kills thousands. But Japanese aircraft shot down during that attack, their wreckage scattered across Hickam Field, becomes the key to America's submarine victory. Those aluminum propellers, melted down and machined into firing pins, fix the torpedoes that sink the Japanese Navy. Full circle. Perfect irony. Admiral Charles Lockwood retired in 1947, decorated and respected. Remembered as the submariners' champion, the admiral who fought his own navy to save his men. He died in 1967 at age 77. His legacy: proving that listening to operators in the field matters more than protecting institutional pride. Lieutenant Commander Lawrence Daspit, the man who fired 15 torpedoes and saved one for analysis, continued a distinguished naval career. His meticulous documentation proved the contact exploder problem. His patrol report changed history. USS Tinosa's Dud Patrol of July 24, 1943, became the most important failed attack of the Pacific War. And the machinists at Pearl Harbor, the unnamed torpedo shop workers who scavenged Japanese wreckage, melted aluminum, and precision-machined firing pins around the clock, they're the true heroes of this story. They never received public recognition. No medals, no headlines. Just the satisfaction of knowing their work saved the submarine campaign. The Mark 14 torpedo remained in service until 1980. After all the fixes, it became a reliable weapon. 40 years of use. Finally replaced by the Mark 48. But it never escaped its legacy. The most expensive, most sophisticated, most catastrophically flawed weapon in U.S. military history. Until someone had the wit to look at a pile of enemy wreckage and think, what if we use that? Sometimes the solution to an impossible problem comes from the most unlikely source. Sometimes you have to fight your own side before you can fight the enemy. And sometimes, just sometimes, your worst defeat contains the key to your greatest victory. Lieutenant Commander Daspit heard 15 torpedoes hit without exploding. That frustration drove the investigation that found the problem. The solution wasn't advanced technology, wasn't a radical new design. It was lighter firing pins, made from aluminum, scavenged from enemy aircraft shot down 2 years earlier. The simplicity of the fix makes the 21-month delay even more tragic. But the irony, using Japan's own planes to destroy Japan's own navy, that's poetry. Dark, terrible, wartime poetry. If you enjoyed this story of how bureaucratic arrogance nearly lost the Pacific War, and how a simple fix from enemy wreckage saved it, let me know in the comments what other untold World War II innovations we should cover. The The bedspring armor that saved Sherman tanks? The backwards B-29 turret that shot down 11 fighters? The $2 rubber hose that extended fighter range by 200 miles? Hit that subscribe button for more stories of unconventional problem solving that changed the course of history. Thanks for watching.